for examples, but yeah, anything. I mean, you could write an AGI script in C if you wanted. I'm not sure what you would want to do that for, but anything else? Okay, so what is AMI? AMI stands for the Asterisk Manager Interface. I'm going to drink real quick. And it allows a client application to remotely connect to an Asterisk instance to both monitor events and execute commands. So the difference between AMI and AGI is that AGI extends the dial plan into another scripting language of your choice, and AMI is completely independent of the dial plan, and it allows for you to do real-time monitoring and execution of commands. Some usage examples. By far, I would say the most common usage of AMI would be to originate calls. You can originate outbound calls, and you can do call redirecting, call transferring. I think those are pretty much the same thing. But you can also do, I've seen people do some neat stuff with GUIs, looking at real-time queue status. And a new feature in 1.8, advice to charge messages. You can generate those, but that's kind of boring, so I don't want to talk about that. The first thing I think of when I think of AMI is click to dial, and that's just the usage or the tool you would use to click to dial. AMI connects over TCP and HTTP. The client server roles here, Asterisk is the TCP and HTTP server. It's going to be in charge of opening new client sessions, processing responses for the client, commands, and pushing out events to the clients. The client role here is the TCP and HTTP. There's too many acronyms here. Client. And that's going to connect to Asterisk. That's your AMI script. And it's going to push commands to Asterisk, tell Asterisk to do things, and listen for events and responses. So let's start by limiting our discussion of AMI just to TCP. I think that will be easier for now. So AMI is configured in manager.conf. This is a really basic configuration. You just have a generalist section. All you really need here, I believe, is enabled equals yes. We also have web enabled equals yes, just because we're going to use HTTP later. I specified the port. By default, the port's 5038 anyways, and I've also bound to all addresses. The only really important thing here is you need to set up your AMI user, which in this case I've named it very generically my username, and the secret's my secret. You also have permissions that you need to set for every user, and more information about these permissions can be found in the manager.conf.sample file. But in this case, I've given it pretty liberal permissions just so you can see what's available there. You can also do some things for security-wise to permit and deny IP addresses. So you might want to deny all and only permit where you know somebody needs to actually be connecting to AMI. You can also do TLS, I believe, but I don't have that in the slide. If you're setting up AMI for the first time, an easy way to test your configuration is using Telnet. When you connect for the first time, it's going to just look like this and give you the Asterisk call manager back. So now that you're connected, how do you tell Asterisk to do things? AMI consists of 3 message types. You have an action, which the client tells Asterisk to do something, like originate a call or play DTMF on a channel. You have a response, where Asterisk tells a client the result of that action. Asterisk tells the client, whatever I just said. And events, Asterisk pushes out events about maybe peer status, DTMF occurred, or new channels were created, status, internal events of the Asterisk box to the client if they have permission to see those. So a common message flow of an AMI client with an Asterisk box will look something like this, where the client just sends out action commands, immediately gets a response, and they've had permission to read events. They're going to be receiving events. For TCP, all 3 AMI message types are encoded the exact same way. It's text-based. It's very human readable. Every line starts with a header and is terminated with a carriage return line feed character. And every message is terminated by a blank line. So we have an example below, action login, which is going to be our authentication action. Username, blah, secret, blah. And the only thing to get out here is you have to end everything with character return line feed, and the message is terminated by a blank line. So what action commands are available? If you're in the CLI, the best way to see this is do the manager show commands CLI command, and that's going to show you everything that's available for your Asterisk version, which is going to change between all versions. Usually they don't disappear. Commands are going to disappear, but more are going to be added. And if you want specific documentation about a command, you can do manager show command, blah, the name of the command. Okay, so now that we know the basics, let's look at a simple AMI script. This one's called dial confusion. This is another probably not practical example, but a fun example. The purpose is to confuse a bunch of your friends by calling them all and silently dropping them into a conference room. And then you can listen to them argue about who called who, and it's just fun, whatever. And how it works. We're going to use the originate AMI action to generate a bunch of outbound calls and then silently drop them into a meet conference room when they pick up. If you go to my website, I have more information about that example, and I configured it to use Google Voice because it's free and it was kind of fun. Google Voice is kind of a big deal. So I'm going to show you that code. All right, so this is actually a lot more simple than our other example. This argument, or this script, is going to take in something like 7 arguments, but really all you're giving it is the port, or I'm sorry, the IP, the port, the username, and the user password for your AMI account, meet me conference room, and any subsequent argument after that is going to be a phone number you dial to dump into the conference bridge. So here we open our socket. I've set a timeout here, which basically that's a read timeout, which it's going to wait for information on socket read for 2 seconds before it times out. The best way to do, the best model for TCP clients, you'd probably want to make it multi-threaded. I'm not going to do that for a simple example like this. So we're connecting to our Asterisk server, which is done here. Get response is a function that I made, which all it does is just continue to try to read off that socket and print the information to the screen. And in this case, that's just used for debug information. But that's going to allow us to see that once we've connected, did we connect? If something went wrong, we can see it on the screen. It says, yes, we did in fact connect. Command login, this is going to let us authenticate with our server. So you want to build your command here, end everything with the character return line feed. So in this case, we have action login, where action is our action command. Username, which is passed into the arguments of this. Secret, which is also passed into the arguments. And we're going to end it with the character return line feed and send off our command and wait for our response. And after that, we're assuming, the script assumes that you authenticated correctly, and it's just going to start sending out originate commands. So the originate action looks a little bit like this. In this case, I'm originating an outbound call using gtalk, which is going to use Google Voice to my Google Voice account. And once they pick up, it's going to be dumped into the Meet Me application, which I've given it some data here, which this first one right here is the one passed into the argument. That's the number of the Meet Me room, the conference bridge number. And the Q and the R here, Q is going to keep out any of the beeping noise when you join a conference room, so it's going to keep it silent. And R is going to record it so you can go back and listen to it and make fun of them. And priority 1. 5 minutes? Oh, man. Yeah, we're not going to make it through all this, but... All right, so I'm not going to actually do this example because we don't have enough time. We also don't have internet that can support voice over IP right now over the wireless. But I will show you another fun example that I came up with, which is controlling using Asterisk as a video game interface over DTMF. if I can find it. Okay. So in this example, I have a little bit more fancy parsing information that's just completely useless. All we need to get out of this is we're going to log in. There's a function here that's going to do the action login. And this application, all it does is read DTMF events. So in Asterisk, you actually have a DTMF start and DTMF end for every digit. So I was thinking, well, it's just like pressing a button. You can do that in a video game, and it's going to continue the action until you let go. So it's pretty much the exact same thing. So in this example, we're going to read DTF begin, and that's going to start an action. Once we get the end for that digit, then it's going to stop the action. Read events, it's just going to read events off the socket, and it puts them into a queue, which is processed down here. And you guys can look at all this later if you're interested. I'll go ahead and demo this one real quick since we have time. How do you spell secret? There we go. Is that going to work? Authenticate. I missed an E? Ah, you guys are paying attention. Awesome. You're so quiet, though. Fail. All right, so what I miss? I'm sorry. I'm totally... Gotcha. Bam. Yes. So now if I dial in, I think I set this extension right. Yeah, so I just have DTMF digits here. 2 moves up, 5 moves down, 4 over, 6 left, right. I actually made an Asterisk Pong game. The source is on my website. I don't know why I did that. It took a long time, too. I'm kind of embarrassed. But, I mean, that's an interesting use case. I don't know, maybe you could make interactive videos and stuff. I always thought it'd be cool, like at a movie theater, instead of having those stupid trivia things up there, you could call in and maybe interact with the screen or something neat like that. And you could do that with this technology. How much time do I have left?
You can go over a few minutes because we've got a break coming.
Am I actually at time right now, though? I've got 2 minutes left. Wow. Okay. Well, Asterisk Pong exists. You guys can check it out at davidvossel.com. I have no documentation with it. If you actually feel like hacking on it, it's possible. So I'm going to briefly talk about HTTP, AMI over HTTP. I'm not going to use these slides. I really don't know what I'm talking about at this point because I've never made an application with HTTP using AMI. But AMI can also be accessed over HTTP, similar to the way it's done over TCP. And this makes a perfect tool for people that are making GUIs. I know right now some projects that are using it are like the Asterisk GUI, and another one's a Flash operator panel, which, yeah, okay, you guys can see that URL. I don't know much about it, but it shows some real-time status of your Asterisk box and does some neat things. Asterisk actually has a built-in HTTP server, and it's pretty easy to configure. It's just http.conf. You're going to enable it. You're going to set the bind address. And we're also going to enable static. In this case, static is cool because Asterisk comes pre-built with a few static web pages that you can install. And Terry Wilson made one recently, which is kind of cool. It's a mantest.html, which actually lets you test to make sure your manager interface is up over HTTP, and also lets you generate a few commands just to see how it's done. And I'll take a look at that real quick, and that's what we're going to end with, if I can actually do that. If I can type. That apparently is my weakness today. So 1/ what did I call that? All right, my IP, my port, static, man test. I got that. By default, the port's going to be 8088 if you haven't set it up to be different. All right.